Welcome back to Razmafzar TV. I'm really happy to have Hayden Lewis here on our channel, Razmafzar TV. Hi, Hayden. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, sir. How are you doing?
Thank you very much, Hayden. Thanks for coming to our channel and to share your thoughts and your experiences, because as a veteran, you served for the United States in Afghanistan. First of all, tell us about yourself, what you did, and if you wish, in which unit you served, and how was your impression in Afghanistan? Go ahead, please, Hayden, please.
All right. So in the beginning, I got moved to my unit because I didn't make selection for Green Berets, the Special Forces. And so I got put in an infantry unit in the 82nd Airborne Division. The unit is the 251st Geronimo Parachute Infantry Regiment. And when I arrived, it was around October 2017, and my unit was already deployed. So there was some leeway where I was waiting, and then they deployed me later around, I want to say early January. I don't remember the exact day.
Yeah.
So I arrived there. First, we go to Kuwait. Everyone goes to Kuwait, and you get processed there. Takes a week or two. We were there for like 4 or 5 days. And then we went to Bagram, Afghanistan, which is a huge airfield. It's like a city, has walls everywhere. It's really big. It used to be a Soviet airfield. I didn't know that until later.
Wow.
So I arrived there to my unit, and then when you're the new guy in an infantry unit, you're not treated very well at all. So I had to deal with that. I think the first thing that I really remember in Afghanistan, besides just sitting there, I remember one day, so when you take incoming like mortars, there's an alarm on the airfield, but this wasn't a normal alarm. And I remember I looked out from our barracks because we were on the second floor, and I'm looking out and I see something flying around, and I'm looking at it, and it was a drone. And I guess they had a drone attack, and they would attach grenades to these drones and fly them over a spot and drop them. I don't know if this one had dropped it because I didn't hear anything, but they were saying that there was drones flying around, and we saw it flying around. That was the first thing I remember, and that was just it was pretty amazing that they were so ingenuitive with whatever they had. I don't know if it was Taliban or ISIS or whatever faction, but just to know that they were able to fly over the airfield with a drone was pretty I wouldn't say scary, but like kind of made me nervous. Again, and that it was close enough to where I could see it and then almost hear it. And then we did one mission. I had to stay back, but we did one mission where they had to seize an airfield, and they were testing the ground for airplanes, which doesn't make any sense. This is what I thought was weird about Afghanistan was they would tell us all these outlandish things like, oh, well, they're testing. We're going to be testing the dirt to see if we can land airplanes in this spot. Yeah. But from what I was told, they were digging deep in the ground, and I know they had mining operations all over the country. And then there was people in suits on the airfield that were talking to colonels and high ranks. So it was strange. And they were saying that when they went to fly, when they landed in that spot and were digging in the ground, the ANA showed up and weren't told, and they drew guns on my platoon that went on that mission. So I wasn't there for that. I did go on one mission where I went to Herat, and I believe Herat was part of Persia at one point.
Yes.
And I believe everyone there spoke Persian as well. They all speak Persian. Oh. So we go to Herat, and we go to a little base that's run by the Italians. And so at any important, big enough base in Afghanistan. They have these giant, they look like blimps, and they have cameras all over it. And therefore, for when you take incoming, the cameras will spot it, and there's a gun on that blimp called a CRAM, and it'll shoot the mortars out of the air. It's not 100% effective, but it does its best. But I noticed when we got to this fob, first thing I noticed, there was no security at any of the checkpoints. You could just walk in and out, which was really weird to me. And two, that CRAM was on the ground, so it wasn't being put in use. So we got there, we already had a first sergeant, which is the second highest enlisted rank in the Army. Their first sergeant is enlisted rank 8. So he was waiting for us. He briefed us, and he had told us, he said the CRAM is on the ground because supposedly the Italian army bribes the Taliban. So that was what we were told. I kind of believe it because of how they ran it. There was no security. Anyone could have just ran into this base if they wanted to.
So did I understand you correctly? Bribe in a way that they shouldn't attack?
Yes. That they would give them money. And I don't know if it's true, but that first sergeant that received us and briefed us, I don't know why he would make that up. And it seemed to have some truth to it, because there was no base security. And then, like, for example, on this base, there was mostly Italians. None of them walked around with weapons at all. They had Ukrainians and Georgians. They didn't walk around with weapons. No one had weapons. And then when we were free to go to the bazaar on that base, I remember the first store I went into, and we took our unit patches off because we didn't want anyone knowing. We had a very important mission in Herat, which I'll tell you the details in a little bit. But we weren't wearing our unit patches. We weren't wearing our name tapes or anything. So I go to look around the bazaar because I just wanted to see what it would be like. And the first vendor I talked to was I think he was probably like 15 or 16 years old with his dad, which I thought was cool because he was speaking Ukrainian, and then he was speaking Italian, and then he would speak Persian to his dad, and then he would turn to me and speak English, which I thought was really cool. Wow. But he said, "Oh, you guys are 82nd from Bagram," and I'm like, "No." I just said no. But it was just strange that they already knew where we came from, what unit we were in. It was just very strange. And then, so fast forward a couple days, we began our briefing for our mission. So what was going on in Herat was there was a giant water pipeline that was built for irrigation, I believe. And a lot of leaders from other countries, I think India, Pakistan, some other countries, but the president of Afghanistan and I think a general in the Afghan army, I believe, was coming to this event about this water pipeline. So our mission was we were to be security, so to speak, for the president, and we would be in these big helicopter Chinooks. Are you familiar with Chinooks? Yeah. They're like big transport helicopters. So the president the president of Afghanistan at the time, I don't even remember his name. He was in the other Chinook with the other half of my platoon, and that general was too. And then it was the other half of the platoon where I was in the other Chinook, not with the president. And then we had 4 Blackhawks escorting us. So we get in that, we wait a while on the airfield, everything gets situated. We start flying over Herat. And of course, I'm gonna be on my nose is on the glass looking out over the city. And I noticed one, it was very beautiful, a very beautiful city from the sky. But what I noticed was people started getting up on their roofs because they had flat roofs. Most of the buildings had flat roofs, and everyone started getting up out of their roofs looking at us. And the first thing that stood out to me was, okay, there's a lot of people going on their roofs. And then someone unrolls a flag on one of the roofs and starts waving it. And I don't know what the flag was, but they were waving it at us. And then I see something bright coming from one of the roofs, and it's an RPG. It comes and they try to hit one of the Blackhawks, but we moved out of the way. The Blackhawk moved out of the way. And so on the back of the Chinook, there's a crew chief who opens the door. He operates the door, and he's strapped in and he's watching. And because of the evasive maneuver the Chinook took, he almost fell out, and we would have had to pull him back in. Thank God he didn't fall out. But that was the only thing that happened, was that RPG came at us and we got out of the way. And then like we're all freaking out at this point. And but we keep flying. We fly around for a while, we land, we escort the president, and we get back we had people waiting for us, Afghan army waiting for us to get the president, and we get back on the Chinooks and fly back. And then we had an AAR, an after action review, and there was no talk about that RPG we took. They're like, oh, it was a flare. It was a flare. So
just a question, I mean, for me, so this RPG does not have any heat tracer, correct? So if you just go out of its way, it will fail its target. Am I correct?
The one that was fired at us, yes. Because I believe at 1,300 meters, it's running out of fuel and it starts going everywhere.
Yes, that's right.
But it was strange because we had that AAR, the after action review, and then they're like, oh, it was a flare. But then my platoon leader, lieutenant, had told us, no, that was an RPG. So it was just strange that they would make something up like that.
Okay.
And it seemed like everyone knew who we were and what we were doing already. Because to me, it's like they have helicopters and planes fly around Herat all the time, because there's an airstrip there. And all of a sudden, when this convoy of helicopters fly over, everyone starts getting out of their homes, and then we take an RPG.
Yeah, of course. It's very strange, very strange. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, please. I didn't want to interrupt you. So they had this intelligence from somewhere. Of course, you don't get this information just like that. That's clear. Yeah.
Yeah. It just seems that the communication between NATO and the Afghans was very shady, and two, it's either it was shady or there was no communication. Rewind back to that mission that my platoon went on, where they had to seize a field and test the dirt. The Afghan army showed up with guns drawn because they didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. And you talked about mining. What kind of mines? Could you please elaborate on it?
I was told lithium.
Oh, lithium.
They say there's a lot of lithium in Afghanistan, and so I don't know if that spot where they were testing for an airfield was for mining, but it doesn't make sense that we would seize an airfield and then start drilling deep into the earth. That doesn't make sense for plane landing, because all other times where we're trained to seize an airfield, we don't have the Air Force come in and start drilling in the ground. I've never seen that. It doesn't make any sense. What does the deep underground have to do with landing a plane on the surface?
Yeah, of course. Regarding ANA, they were trained mostly by Americans, if I'm not mistaken, right? So how was the situation there? Did you see anything, Hayden? How was the training? You know, what I'm always surprised, The number which is given for ANA was like 300,000, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know where the number is. If the number is accurate, I have no idea, no clue. I just what I read in the news or what I read in the news. So then I asked myself, 300,000 trained soldiers. I mean, come on, this is a massive number, right? We all know that from military circles. So what happened?
My opinion on the number at least, I don't think that's accurate.
Okay.
To me, there's no way, because one, that a lot of people in the ANA are doing it for a paycheck. They did it for a paycheck. And two, look at the population of Afghanistan itself. It's not a heavy, I mean, there's